After the country was aware of Nyachae to be the IEBC chairman in the Republic of Kenya as we prepare for 2027 election, the current head of state, President William Samoei Ruto, decided to reappoint Erastus as the new IEBC chairperson ahead of 2027 election.
Because every Kenyan is thinking about the same, that now that it has taken this long to have IEBC in place, the commissioners, and yet we have all these pressing issues that are pending. So allow me then to tell Kenyans, because I'm sure they are watching many of them, that one of the very, very first tasks that I will undertake as a chair, together with the commissioners and working closely with our secretariat, is to look at, number one, what are these pending issues post-2022 elections that require the attention and decisions of the commission. Because the commission takes decisions as a body corporate. So we will look at, for example, matters related to the pending by-elections. I know there are about, I think, 7 of them, or 12. There are issues around, of course, boundary delimitation, for which the constitutional time limit for review lapsed last year around March. And then, of course, there is now where the rubber meets the road, the 2027 elections. How can we then work backwards from the August date to where we begin our work as a commission? And I must tell Kenyans then, therefore, that the reason why this exercise is being undertaken is so that to have the 7 commissioners who will be a board corporate, who are responsible for initiating some of these actions through either gazetting some processes to begin. So as the new chairman, if I'm successful, I will work with my secretariat and colleagues to look at how do we then sort out the issue of the by-elections. How do we initiate that process? Number 2, the issue of boundaries, as you have mentioned. What then needs to be done now that the constitutional time limits has lapsed? So we look at it, I am sure, before the time lapsed, because I know we have a secretariat, and I know these are some of the most professional Kenyans running that secretariat. We will find out as a commission to what extent had they begun the preparatory processes towards the boundary review and delimitations. So we'll look at the work already done, see what needs to be taken forward. But there are also, Ambassador, with your permission, there are also certain hard questions we have to ask ourselves. Now that this boundary delimitation constitutional time limit has ended, what are we supposed to do next? So we will have to seek, for example, dialogue with the judiciary, the Office of the Attorney General, to sort out the legal issues. Then number 2, we also have to bring on board stakeholders to have a discussion around the boundary delimitation vis-a-vis the timelines for the general election, which you have rightly mentioned that they are tight. So we have to make a decision as a country whether we can undertake both these exercises at the same time, or we focus as a country to planning and executing the 2022 elections. And this is an open discussion. We don't have the answers as a commission, but what I assure Kenyans is that we will call that dialogue so that we can address this very, very critical issue. Number 3, in terms of the IEBC itself, I am aware that their strategic plan, which is the document that guides the commission in terms of execution of its mandate, may have expired, and therefore their preparatory processes towards coming up with a new strategic plan. So priority as chair would be for us to finalize that strategic plan, because strategic plan is a document that will guide us in terms of delivery of not only the general election, but also other critical processes, including the boundary delimitation. So our focus will be to look at that strategic plan, to approve it, and then from the strategic plan, we can now derive the electoral operations plan, and of course many other plans, including the security. Then we sort out the funding issues. So for us, once we have these strategic policy guiding documents, and we are very comfortable as commissioners, remember we'll also be new, maybe most of us, if we are successful, we will have to very quickly internalize this and then roll out. And where certain decisions will require me as a chairman to gazette so that we initiate them, I will do so as soon as practicable. Thank you.
You've watched and listened to the video clip, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Erastus is now giving out his pledge and thanking the head of state for such kind of gratitude. Allow me to dig deep into this, ladies and gentlemen, because the issue of IEBC is the problem affecting us up to date. When the late Wafula Chebukati was given power to run free and fair election in the Republic of Kenya, Wafula Chebukati disobeyed the constitution in some occasion. For instance, a good example, 2022. The whole world watched the country Kenya, and they can testify that election was rigged. It was not fair. It was not well calculated. It was not well conducted. And that is the fact. So, when we listen to Mr. Erastus showing how confident he is and appreciating the head of state, the real message here is that 2027 is still going to be the same like 2022. And believe me or not, politics is always well planned, well drafted for any politician to achieve whatever he or she wants. President William Samuel Ruto released a speech yesterday, a government press, which I believe that most of Kenyans were surprised and majority of us were unperturbed with whatever the head of state came up with. The gentleman is so courageous, well and fine, and he is believing in himself that is going to conduct this election ahead of us. But the advice I can give to him is that he must prepare for billions of money, which might be ferried to him. He must prepare for political threat. He must prepare for political silly game mind, which most of our politicians always come up with, more so when it's come to the presidency. And I believe that Kenyans might also come with another political shockwave demanding Mr. Erastus to quit the office. And these are things which are not strange to this country, to this land. They are things which we have seen happening in many occasions as we approach election. Number one, the big question, why was William Ruto appointing the gentleman? That is the question we ought to ask ourselves. Yet, the people had bared in their mentality that it was nyachae. So there was fear. That is something which you must understand. There was fear. The head of state feared that if nyachae was given this chance, and yet we have Matiang'i as a presidential candidate, then he might rig for Matiang'i. So Ruto wanted free and fair election, which is not going to make it because he knows how to play his cards. Right now, the ground is hostile, for sure. The ground is not favoring the head of state. But instead of doing that, I have been told that the gentleman is Nanok cousin. Please, if many of you knows about this, drop your opinion. That is what I've been told. And that is what I think even most of you are coming up with. That is Nanok kazi. Nanok is working hand on hand with President Ruto. He is a close friend to the president. So it means that they are on a mission to ensure William Ruto retain his position. Well, it is none of my business whether he retain or not. What I want to advise or to urge leaders in this country, remember whatever you are doing today is going to affect even your future generation. Tomorrow, if your son will try to vie for any position, that spirit will still hunt him or her. Election imeibwa, chaguzi wameiba kura yangu, mwingine ameabductiwa, mwingine ameuawa, kwa sababu your forefathers did it. It is the same way, if you don't work smart as a man in the near future, ukifika age of 30, 35, to 35, the retirement age, you will still not make it. That is the reality. So I think this gentleman must come out and tell Kenyans the truth. And he must come out with a conclusion that is not going to disappoint Kenyans, that is not going to rig any election, that Kenya is going to be written in the history having free and fair election, whereby if the Gen Zs come out in large numbers and vote against the leaders, disturbing them in very many occasions, then they are going to be in relief, but not in pain. We don't want a situation where we are going back to 2022, 2007, and many other years back. We don't want that situation. Anyway, Zion Kenya TV want to congratulate this man, but obvious State House might be behind this gentleman. Believe me or not, the current head of state is a cunning president, as I keep on telling you. Time will tell. Erastus has been elected as the new IEBC chairperson ahead of 2027 election. Ladies and gentlemen, the vehicle is now on. Leaders are getting inside the vehicle. The driver, actually there are so many drivers. So any person who will drive well will make it. If you will drive carelessly, it is upon you. We are ready and ready, set, go. That is the message I leave you with. Bye-bye and all the best.